Customers might not tell you why they leave your business, but your building's air quality could actually be the silent culprit.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this totally invisible force that's just shaping every single interaction and, every buying decision happening inside those walls.
Yeah, and later on in this deep dive, we're actually going to explain why up to like 50% of the air you are breathing right now, whether you're at your desk or eating at a restaurant, might literally be coming from a damp, moldy swamp right under the floorboards.
Which is a terrifying thought, honestly.
Right. Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring a really fascinating stack of materials focused entirely on indoor air quality.
Yeah, and the mission here is to understand how these really subtle things like faint odors, bad airflow, or just uneven temperatures quietly drive customers away.
Exactly, and how that directly impacts a business's bottom line. It's a completely different way to look at foot traffic and customer retention. Taking the focus off the sales pitch and putting it right onto the oxygen.
Which makes sense. I mean, looking at the sheer amount of technical data in our sources regarding building hygiene, having an industry specialist framing this discussion is just vital.
Totally. So before we get into the weeds, I do want to introduce the sponsor who makes this deep dive possible. Because dealing with these invisible issues requires heavy-duty expertise. We are talking about Hurricane Group.
Right, the specialists.
Yeah, they are the leading specialist in HVAC hygiene and property restoration. They specialize in home care solutions, like air duct cleaning, water damage restoration, dryer vent cleaning, and crawl space encapsulation.
And they have the credentials to back it up.
Exactly. They provide IICRC certified solutions and boast over 800 five-star reviews. Call the sponsor now. Hurricane Group phone 404-236-6343.
It's good to know there are actual pros handling this stuff.
Okay, let's unpack this because when we think about lost customers or a dip in retail sales, our minds immediately go to the obvious metrics, right?
Oh, for sure. We blame the pricing or, the marketing.
Yeah. Or maybe we think the lighting in the store is unflattering or the music is playing just a little too loud. But the sources we are looking at today suggest something entirely different.
They really do.
I like to think of your indoor air quality as your invisible customer service representative.
Yeah.
If the air is stale or if there's this weird, humid temperature fluctuation in the room, it just creates an immediate negative impression on the body.
Right, and the result is that customers just cut their visits short. What's fascinating here is that the science behind that feeling of discomfort is really well documented.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the industry actually refers to it as sick building syndrome. And it's particularly relevant when you analyze the environmental data in these sources, which focus heavily on the metro Atlanta area.
Oh, right, because of the weather.
Exactly. Georgia's notoriously high humidity creates a massive ongoing risk for mold and pathogens to just circulate through neglected ducts in commercial facilities.
Like retail centers, medical clinics, corporate offices, restaurants.
All of them, yeah. The humidity is basically fuel for the problem.
But how does that actually play out inside the vents? I mean, structurally.
So the moisture in the ambient air gets pulled into the HVAC system, right? And it becomes trapped in the dark, cool environment of the ductwork.
Okay, makes sense.
Over time, everyday dust, skin cells, and microscopic debris build up along the metal walls of the ducts. And when you mix that layer of organic dust with, 70% or higher humidity...
Oh, gross.
Yeah, you are no longer just dealing with dirty vents. You have created a highly active biological breeding ground.
Wow.
And this directly impacts human behavior on a totally subconscious level. I want you to imagine sitting in a restaurant waiting for your food.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The environment just feels heavy. Maybe it is slightly musty, or the air literally feels thick on your skin.
Oh, I know exactly that feeling. You start feeling a little lethargic. Maybe a faint headache starts creeping in right behind your eyes.
Yes, exactly. And how do you react to that physical sensation? You are inherently going to leave sooner.
Right. You skip dessert. You're definitely not ordering that second cup of coffee.
Because the environment is literally communicating to your body that it's time to go. And the most dangerous part for the business owner is that you will probably never complain to the manager about it.
That is the really silent part of the silent killer. Nobody walks up to the host stand and says, excuse me, your airborne particulate count is ruining my appetite.
Right. No one says that.
They just politely ask for the check, walk out the door, and ghost you. They might not even consciously realize why they don't want to go back.
Exactly.
So we know the air is driving people away, which brings us to where this problem actually lives, deep inside the commercial HVAC infrastructure.
Right, into the ducts.
And I have to try and picture this. Because if the problem is this massive, how do you fix it without shutting down the business? Like, you can't just take a giant industrial shop vac and shove it into a ceiling vent in a 50,000 square foot mall, right?
No, you absolutely cannot.
Because you just dump a decade of dust all over the merchandise.
Exactly. And trying to use standard residential methods on a massive commercial facility is exactly why so many buildings suffer from chronic sick building syndrome in the first place.
So what's the alternative?
The source materials detail this highly sophisticated industrial-scale, four-step commercial protocol.
4 steps, okay.
Yeah, this specific process was actually developed by Loren, who is a veteran specialist with over 15 years of experience in environmental remediation and mechanical hygiene.
Oh, wow. So he really knows this stuff.
He does. He approaches commercial duct cleaning as a precision engineering task.
So if you aren't just hooking up a vacuum to a vent, what does this 4-step protocol actually look like in a massive space?
Well, it begins with an industrial diagnostic phase, because you cannot clean what you cannot see.
Makes sense.
They deploy robotic crawlers equipped with high-definition fiber optic cameras deep into the labyrinth of the building's ductwork.
Wait, like little robots driving through the vents?
Exactly. This creates a complete visual map of the interior. They are looking for structural blockages, mold colonies, and basically identifying the layout before a single tool is even turned on.
That's incredible.
Then comes a critical phase called zonal containment.
Okay, how does zonal containment work?
Yeah.
Because air is fluid, right? It just wants to go everywhere.
Right, so they use heavy-duty plastic barriers and negative air machines to physically isolate specific sections of the ductwork and the building itself.
Oh, I see.
By manipulating the air pressure, they ensure that the air only flows in one direction, straight into their filtration machines.
Which guarantees that absolutely no dust, rolled spores, or debris blows back out into the retail workspace or medical waiting room.
Exactly. During the whole cleaning process, the space is safe.
Which is crucial. I mean, if you agitate all that toxic dust without containing it, you have just turned a hidden problem into an active airborne hazard for everyone in the building.
Exactly. So once the zone is fully sealed and under negative pressure, they deploy pneumatic agitation.
Pneumatic agitation. Sounds intense.
It is. This involves sending powerful, compressed air whips and mechanical brushes down the line. These tools physically whip and scrub the interior metal, stripping away the accumulated debris from the duct walls.
Got it.
And the experts in the sources refer to this specific buildup as Georgia sludge.
Georgia sludge. That is such a visceral, gross term.
It paints a picture, right?
It is incredibly memorable. It perfectly captures that sticky, humid, dust-caked mess we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's not dry, fluffy dust. It's almost like a paste.
Yeah, which is why the final extraction requires truck-mounted vacuums capable of generating immense negative suction.
Oh, so a regular vacuum wouldn't even dent it.
Not at all. They have to pull that heavy, caked-on sludge entirely out of the building and into their containment trucks.
Wow.
And then the final step is an EPA-registered sanitization, where they apply specialized antimicrobial treatments throughout the freshly cleaned system.
Just to ensure the environment is totally sterilized and compliant with health codes. You know, dealing with this kind of massive commercial-scale hazard and doing it with that level of precision engineering is exactly why we partnered with Hurricane Group for this deep dive.
They really are the benchmark for this.
Yeah. If you are listening to this, whether you manage a retail store, a corporate office, or a clinic, and realizing your building might be suffering from sick building syndrome, you really need to look at their commercial air duct cleaning in Atlanta, Georgia service.
It's a lifesaver.
They have a massive reputation backed by all those 5-star reviews. But for business owners, what really matters is their zero-disruption logistics.
That is the key part.
Yeah, Loran and his team organize 24/7 scheduling, including nights and weekends. That means their industrial crews come in, perform this massive overhaul, and are completely out before your customers or employees ever arrive.
You don't lose a single minute of operating time or foot traffic.
Call the sponsor now. Hurricane Group phone 404-236-6343.
Because honestly, the operational downtime is often the biggest hurdle preventing facility managers from addressing air quality.
All right, nobody wants to shut down the store.
Exactly. So removing that barrier with overnight scheduling is just a game changer for commercial spaces.
Let's pivot slightly. We've talked about how the sludge gets removed, and we know the air flowing into the room is clean now.
Right.
But how does that translate to the business owner's bottom line? Because, yes, we want customers to be comfortable and stick around longer, but facility maintenance has to have a measurable return on investment.
For sure. If we connect this to the bigger picture, clean air is intrinsically linked to operational energy efficiency.
Okay, how so?
Well, when Liran's team removes years of this accumulated Georgia sludge from the HVAC coils and the blowers, they are removing a massive physical barrier.
Ah, I see.
The mechanical system no longer has to fight just to push air through a clogged pathway. The data in our sources indicates that a commercial facility can reduce its overall energy consumption by up to 25%.
Wait, 25% just from cleaning the ducts.
Simply by maintaining clean ductwork and coils, yes.
25% on a commercial utility bill is a staggering amount of overhead capital. I mean, think about having a dirty HVAC system, like having a clogged artery.
That's a great analogy.
The heart, or in this case, the blower motor, has to work drastically harder, pumping with much more force just to get the same amount of blood or air through the system.
Exactly.
And when an industrial motor is struggling like that all day, every day, your monthly utility bills skyrocket.
Oh.
Plus, the machinery itself is going to burn out and require replacement years before it should.
Because the static pressure inside the system rises to highly dangerous levels when it is forced to breathe through that sludge.
That makes total sense.
And to protect that newly clean system from clogging up again, the sources emphasize a massive upgrade in filtration.
Now, this is where I actually want to push back a bit, because the filter tech in these sources sounds counterintuitive to me.
How so?
Well, most of us just go to the hardware store and buy those cheap standard 1-inch cardboard filters, right? The basic one. But the sources say we need to upgrade to 4-inch or 5-inch media filters, talking about MRV 11 to MRV 16 ratings. Hold on. If we are upgrading from a flimsy 1-inch filter to a dense 5-inch block of material, wouldn't that actually choke the system?
You would think so, yeah.
How does a thicker, denser filter equal better airflow?
It seems like it would restrict the air, but the secret actually lies in the physical design of the media filter. These high MERV filters are heavily pleated.
Pleated, like folded.
Exactly. The fabric folds back and forth like an accordion. Because of all those deep folds, a 5-inch media filter actually increases the total filtering surface area by 40 times compared to a flat 1-inch standard filter.
40 times. Wow. So the air literally has 40 times more space to pass through, even though the material itself is thicker.
Yes. The sheer volume of surface area allows the system to easily breathe while simultaneously trapping microscopic allergens, bacteria, and smoke down to 1 micron in size.
Wait, 1 micron. Let's put that in perspective. How small is a micron, actually?
Okay, to visualize it, a single strand of human hair is about 70 microns thick.
Oh my gosh.
So we are talking about capturing biological particles and fine particulate matter that are entirely invisible to the naked eye.
And from a maintenance perspective, that massive surface area must be a dream for facility managers.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of having to climb up on a ladder to change a flimsy 1-inch filter every 30 days because it's instantly clogged, these high-capacity media filters have so much room to catch dust that they last anywhere from 6 to 12 months.
It fundamentally changes the maintenance schedule. It saves a massive amount of ongoing labor.
I bet.
But, as comprehensive as commercial duct cleaning and MRV 16 filtration are, they only address the air once it is already inside the mechanical system.
Right.
To ensure total building health, we have to trace the air back to its origin. If the ducts are the lungs of the building, we have to look downward to the foundation.
Which brings us back to that mind-blowing fact from the beginning, the crawl spaces and basements.
Right. There is a fluid dynamics phenomenon in architecture known as the stack effect.
The stack effect. Okay.
Basically, as warm air inside a building naturally rises and escapes through the roof, the upper levels, and the attic, it creates a literal vacuum at the bottom of the building.
The vacuum.
Yes. This negative pressure aggressively pulls air up from the lowest levels to replace the air that escaped.
Okay, so it's constantly pulling.
Because of this continuous vacuum, up to 50% of the air breathed on a first floor comes directly from the crawl space or the basement.
That is half the air you're breathing, just pulling whatever is sitting under the floorboards right up into your personal space.
Exactly. Now factor in the regional climate. If that crawl space is an unsealed dirt floor, especially in a climate where the outdoor humidity is frequently above 70%,
you're just pulling damp, mold spore-filled, rotting air straight up into the living or working area.
Precisely. And furthermore, damp air physically holds more ambient heat than dry air. Yeah, your air conditioning unit has to work 25% harder just to wring the moisture out of that humid air before it can even begin the process of cooling the building.
So you are literally paying higher utility bills to cool the damp swamp under your building.
Yes. And the definitive solution detailed in the sources is crawl space encapsulation.
I try to picture this like vacuum sealing the foundation. You are physically cutting the building off from the Earth's moisture.
That is a very accurate way to visualize it. It is a highly technical process, though. They don't just lay down a cheap plastic tarp.
Right. It's got to be more robust than that.
They install heavy-duty, multi-layered antimicrobial vapor barriers that completely cover the dirt floor and run right up the foundation walls.
Oh, wow.
Every seam is permanently sealed. All the exterior foundation vents, which actually let humid air in rather than venting it out, are blocked off.
That makes sense.
Finally, they install industrial-grade Sanidre or Santa Fe dehumidifiers. This permanently conditions the space underneath the building, forcing the humidity below 55% and stopping microbial growth right at the source.
Here is where it gets really interesting, though. If the ducts are the lungs and the encapsulation secures the foundation, these sources also dive into what they call the immune system of the building.
Yes.
I'm talking about UV lights.
The application of UVC germicidal technology in commercial HVAC systems has just completely revolutionized indoor air quality.
But how does a light bulb act as an immune system? The sources say they install these high-intensity UVC germicidal lamps directly into the air handler, shining right onto the dark, damp evaporator coils where mold loves to grow.
Right, so the UVC light doesn't just filter or trap the mold, it operates on a molecular level.
Okay, how?
The specific wavelength of UVC light acts like microscopic scissors. When a mold spore or a virus passes through the light, the UVC energy physically shatters the DNA and RNA bonds of the organism.
That is wild.
It completely sterilizes the pathogen so it cannot reproduce or cause infection.
So it is actively neutralizing 99.9% of airborne viruses, bacteria, and even VOC's volatile organic compounds.
Exactly.
So if a restaurant is dealing with lingering greasy cooking odors, or say a medical clinic wants to neutralize biological odors, this light system actively purifies the air and destroys the odor-causing molecules before the air even enters the ducts.
Yes, it is hospital-grade sterilization technology, but it's available for everyday commercial spaces. It acts as a brilliant, silent, passive defense system.
We've spent all this time talking about how invisible, neglected airflow can quietly drive away customers, make people feel sluggish,
Right.
or hike up utility bills.
Right.
But what happens when neglected airflow actually threatens to destroy the physical building itself?
Well, this brings us to a fundamental safety compliance issue raised in the text. Building hygiene is often framed as a comfort metric or, an energy-saving tactic, but it is ultimately a critical life safety issue.
Yeah.
The sources specifically highlight dryer vent cleaning, a maintenance task that is severely overlooked in residential complexes, commercial laundromats, spas, and hotels.
It is so easy to forget about the dryer vent. I mean, you pull out that little lint trap screen in the machine, wipe it off, and assume you're good to go.
But that primary trap only catches a fraction of the material.
Really?
Yeah, a significant amount of microscopic lint bypasses that screen and accumulates deep inside the exhaust line running through the walls. And lint is essentially highly flammable kindling.
Wow, okay.
The sources drop a very sobering statistic from the U.S. Fire Administration. Failure to clean lint from dryer vents is a leading cause of appliance fires, resulting in 15,000 fires annually in the U.S.
15,000 fires just from everyday lint.
Yeah.
How does it actually ignite, though?
It is a thermal backup mechanism. As the lint builds up, it creates a physical blockage in the exhaust pipe.
Right.
The heavy, moist, extremely hot air from the dryer cannot escape the building. The airflow is severely restricted, the intense heat backs up into the machine and the wall cavity, and eventually it reaches the ignition point of the dry lint.
And then what?
The entire vent line catches fire almost instantly.
That is terrifying.
It is. Routine professional mechanical scrubbing and high-pressure air flushing of those entire vent lines is not optional. It is tied directly to OSHA and NADCA compliance for commercial facilities.
Wow.
Protecting the air quality goes hand in hand with protecting the structural integrity of the building from catastrophic fire hazards.
Wow. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. From the silent business killer of sick building syndrome to the robotic crawlers taking on Georgia's sludge.
We really have.
We've explored the clogged arteries of a building, the massive energy savings of pleated media filters, the physics of the stack effect, the microscopic scissors of UV immune systems, and the vital fire safety of clean vents.
It just reveals how interconnected every single system in a building truly is.
It does. And the big takeaway here is that clean air isn't just about comfort, it directly impacts your business success.
Absolutely.
Better air leads to longer customer visits, much higher satisfaction, and ultimately increased revenue, all while dramatically lowering your operational energy costs. It is a win-win that you literally cannot see, but your body and your bottom line can definitely feel.
Couldn't agree more.
And if you are ready to secure that foundation, to ensure a perfectly healthy living or working environment, call the sponsor now. Hurricane Group phone, 404-236-6343. You will not regret bringing in the absolute best in the business to handle your building's hygiene.
You know, this raises an important question, something for you to think about as you go back to your office or visit a store this week.
Okay, what's that?
We have established how poor air quality creates physical discomfort and drives customers away. But recent environmental studies point to an even more alarming impact.
More alarming than fires.
Well, poor indoor air quality, specifically high levels of VOCs and trapped carbon dioxide in poorly ventilated buildings, drastically reduces human cognitive function and decision-making skills.
Wait, really? It affects your brain.
Yes. So the next time you find yourself struggling to focus at work or making a surprisingly poor decision during a long meeting, ask yourself, are you just having an off day? Or is the invisible air in your office actively impairing your brain?
That is a terrifying but really fascinating thing to consider. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. See you next time.